Currently, we are experiencing a reflective and critical process about how reality is represented, understood, explained, and modified. It is a condition that requires the difficult integration of distinct and divergent perspectives in which scientific research is transforming. Teamwork, the interaction of different epistemes, is generating emerges and groups of synergies that create multifocal ideas, giving rise the new interpretation on complex problems. Research is prominent among teams that have an empirical experience, where interaction, process, understanding, and interpretation are involved to face reality. Phenomena that require complementary efforts to understand, transform, or accept critical situations that cultural and society-natural relationships have created and continue to generate as our cognitive hermeneutic of the world around us continue to evolve. Teamwork, where different epistemes and ontologies converge, is a relatively new and disruptive approach in research. Western traditions have favored independence and individualization in the research process of nomothetic science and is well established with academia. However, the requirement is the present show that an expansion of reason in the at stake, where is the couple of integrate rigor and plasticity, accuracy, and freedom, control, and movement, and thus bring thus closer to the complexity of system in nature. Individual disciplines have had and continue to have a dominant influence on the way we think, perceive, seek to describe, understand, explain, and transform reality. Currently, disciplinary practice in academic process has fragmented knowledge and the exploration of alternative application of knowledge that discipline have perfected. According to Bourdieu, the term academic habitus can be used to express a scientific field of development that is framed with a set of academic, hierarchical, and political interests. Academic habitus established a limited space of possibility, but is strongly installed in the epistemic imagery of research and traditional academic institutes. This habitus configures a series of organizational disposition about what, why, and how to study and research. It's foster mentality that have a symbolic efficacy to configure an epistemology that is theoretical and practical. Therefore, each field of knowledge currently configures an exclusive academic tribe with cohesion and shared and relative well-defined collective ethnocentric identity. This non-set vision involves a crossing of disciplinary boards, alter ways of knowing, and move paradigm on which the production of knowledge and the reflection on society, nature, and culture are anchored in scientific disciplines. The borders of the disciplines are being blurred in some way. They are being interdisciplinary and by way of criticism. Other authors express that this could be understood as a conceptual confusion lacking in scientific rigor. This new approach are generated from recognizing the limitation of traditional ways of conducting science. They are products of the expansion of the border, the reality, and the multiple new interpretation of its showing inconsistency and discursive influence, which from a discipline perspective is not possible to answer. We do not study issues, but problems, and problems can cross the limits on any object of the study or discipline. We are students of problems, not of disciplines. In this context, it was relevant and necessary to search to alternatives that will change the dominant thinking model, which require other interpretation and the search for change in the cognitive structure, in the way and conceiving and conducting science. In other words, a paradigm shift was necessary. In this theory of scientific revolution, Kuhn affirmed that no paradigm shifts occur when the premise of the preceding paradigms. This process seeks to go beyond the vision of generation of knowledge in a centrifugal and fragmented way by proposing the development of a systemic and holistic vision. This movement, which was conceived by biologists and ecologists with the desire to give an articulate look to all living systems with contribution from the Cannonballing, Bartalanffy, Capra, among others. But it was Bartalanffy who developed the general system theory, which should become an integration mechanism between the natural and social science, and as well as a basic instrument for training scientists. However, reality has reaffirmed the need for specialist knowledge, making it clear that disciplinary contributions are needed. It would be impossible to pretend to overcome this contribution without the vision with which they were developed. Their application in reality implies different degrees of collaboration and interaction between the conception to lead to them in order the active relevance and scope. This has meant critical integrative information in context of oral tradition, qualitative and quantitative data, instruments, concepts, and methods from the different disciplines, fostering their interregulation in an environment of collaboration and mutual learning. It has been essential to build a common language as a way of integration and promoting the breakdown of disciplinary metalanguage, which can act as instrument of exclusion. Creating a collaborative environment where truth explanation and different interpretation are part of the constant process, where one must be willing to learn, to sacrifice cognitive interests, to modulate dominant individuals, to ensure that all members of the work team are recognized, and that the resource coincide with the interests and priorities of the work team and the community where it operates. This condition facilitates an holistic system perspective and the socio-ecological action niche, which allow us to reflect on the complexity and multidimensionality of reality. This also brings the different epistemes closer to an interdisciplinary vision, which is built and unfolds in the environment described, and that require a specific condition and the methods for its realization. With this perspective, interdisciplinary is a practice that results in the production of new knowledge. This is done by people of different epistemic formation, non-disciplines. In this generate in different contexts of institutional frameworks, norm, value, and culture to which they belong, where there are tension, conflict, representation, communication difficulties, exercise of power, and generality conflicts. The work group made up of research with different backgrounds define their thematic or disciplinary areas that they intend to address. The group starts with an objective language used in academic writing, devoid of feeling or personal opinions, but according to discipline in which each of them is expressed, and the formal technical language is used, which we will call meta-language. The research groups present their review with a meta-language which requires sharing not only of technical language, but also of the meaning and representation of what is expressed with their meta-language. This is the first step of communication, interaction, complementation, and explanation that is offered from each discipline to the work group, favoring a cognitive socialization that will remain constant throughout the process. Concepts, methods that capture an analysis system are shared, as they are the determining elements for the topic being addressed. Personal attitude is based in one episteme and the scope in deep of one's disciplinary knowledge, where the strengths and limitations of each discipline and the positive attitude of the individual towards the collaborative process can be identified. There must be evidence of the dedication of time, effort for the development in the subject and preparation of the complexity and conflicts of the interaction between disciplines, which require assessment of shared knowledge. This allows for critical thinking process and the ability to change for mind. As an essential condition, one must make evident their resistance to ambiguity and their ability to use, adapt, and appropriate various theoretical discourse, and keep in mind one is analogies between episteme and the construction of the metaphor for synthesis, flexible thinking, creative, spontaneity, and control.